Hello and welcome to Education 121, Multicultural Children's Literature. My all-time favorite quote ever, "Some things one can see for oneself. Other things depend on the telling of the tale." Here's a tale. For example, did you know that this is a book about anarchy? Click, clack, moo, cows that type. Anarchy? You kidding me? We're talking about oppression and power in a children's book? What about this one? When a bully is president. Truth and creativity for oppressive times. What? Aren't children's books about nice, innocuous things? I got news for you. I have big news for you, bigger than a solar eclipse. Harry Potter saved my life. A 2014 study reveals that if you read Harry Potter series, that you're more likely to, says it right there, reduce your prejudices against minority groups. Simply by opening up a children's book, you can become less racist, less whatever. Let's think of marginalized groups, all the isms, less ableist. That's an ist, not an ism. Homophobia, oh, that's a ah. But you get what I'm saying. Simply by reading children's books, or particular children's books, you can become a better person. I'm thinking that these boys right here should have been reading more Harry Potter books. I'm thinking these creeps right here that invaded our capital should have been reading a whole lot more Harry Potter books. So you might be asking, I can't believe I still have to protest this. Beep. What does this have to do with multicultural children's literature? I'm going to tell you. This book is hopefully out of print, out of libraries, out of anybody's hands. This book, though, is still in print. Published in 1899, perpetuating a stereotype, still in print, therefore still in the hands of children. I love this quote. The Council on Interracial Books for Children found that children are repeatedly exposed to racist and sexist ideas in books, and that the overexposure to these messages gradually distorts their perceptions until stereotypes are accepted as a reality. So you get that? They're exposed to a false picture of what is, and they accept that. They accept stereotypes as a reality. What a dangerous, dangerous thing, right? What's the connection? In books objectifying girls, they're all over the place. Barbie Princess Charm School, My Little Beauty Shop, The Makeup I Love. Today I'll be a princess. Little Red Riding Hood gets lost. Look who the wolf is. What's the connection? 1 out of every 6 American women have been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in her lifetime. What's the connection? Look at this book. Once upon a time, there were 5 Chinese brothers and they all looked exactly alike. This book was published in 1952, and it is still out there. What's the connection? I is for Indian. Let's play Indian. Our nation was born in genocide when it embraced the doctrine that the original American, the Indian, was an inferior race. Quote from Martin Luther King. What's the connection? Hey, what we should be asking is what's the connection? Not what's the connection. What's the question? How can we help counter sexist and racist messages? Ding dong. Change the message. Change the message. Quality multicultural literature provides an opportunity for all children to see themselves in books, fosters a positive self-esteem, and cultivates respect, empathy, and acceptance of people. Love this quote. There it is again for you to read. Quality multicultural literature does all of that. And when we talk about the definition of multicultural children's literature in this class, we're talking about it maybe in a different way than you have imagined it. Typically, this is what most folks look at. Multicultural literature is focused on people of color, diverse cultural, linguistic, and religious groups. Not that we're not going to be doing that. But the definition that we use in this class most often is it's literature about racial, ethnic, and identity minority groups that are culturally and socially different from the Anglo-Saxon majority of the United States, whose large and middle-class values and customs are most represented in American literature. Okay, let me shorten that for you a little bit. Multicultural literature includes literature about people who are considered to be outside of the mainstream of society and have been marginalized in some way. That kind of says it more. Let me even make it shorter. The bottom line is that we're looking at books other than those of the dominant culture. Bingo. And a definition of the dominant culture is this. In North America, our dominant culture is male, white, heterosexual, Christian, temporarily able-bodied, youthful, and has access to wealth and resources. Therefore, this class will look at the basic level of multicultural literature. Literature about people who are considered to be outside of that dominant culture. Are you asking what's the big deal here? Right? What are you getting all excited about here? Well, the deal is that there's all sorts of fabulous benefits that are reaped from providing fabulous books, fabulous multicultural children's literature, because literature helps young people become informed. They learn about people and places right in their neighborhood and all across the world, right? So it's important stuff. It's a way for kids to kind of look at their own feelings, look at their own values, imagine what life could be beyond the one they live. So that's really great. But if we're looking at most of the books reinforcing one culture, then we're looking at books that are tools of dominance, right? Because we're reinforcing an overwhelmingly white dominant culture. So this is from the poet Adrienne Rich. I'm going to read it. When those who have the power to name and to socially construct reality choose not to see you or hear you, whether you are dark-skinned, old, disabled, female, or speak with a different accent or dialect than theirs, when someone with the authority of the teacher, say, describes the world and you are not in it, there is a moment of psychic disequilibrium, as if you looked into a mirror and saw nothing. And I feel like a lot of people, and specifically students, feel that this way, feel that they have lived in a culture, a society, a world that doesn't necessarily reflect them. But wait a minute. We're just talking about kids' books, right? Yeah, we're talking about kids' books. And this is The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Great book. Happy, wonderful book. Good way to just do some counting and all sorts of stuff. And I'm not trying to suggest that we undermine the hungry caterpillar. But we can deconstruct books a little bit more in this class than in other classes, and that's what we do. Because get this, look at this. Children develop concepts of race and gender at a really young age. Like by the age of 5, they're already hardwired to think a certain way, and it's hard to get unhardwired, right? It's hard to do that. The idea that we have this chance to build a more embracing foundation for kids by providing really awesome, wonderful, diverse, multicultural children's books, that we can do that is so really important. And I love this poet, Annie Dillard, and she said this in one of my most favorite books ever, Tinker at Pilgrim Creek, way back, way before you were born. She spoke of an almost horrific fascination with the tale of Alice in Wonderland. And I'm sure that some of you are familiar with that tale, or a lot of you are familiar. And she got to, take something and get bigger and larger and smaller and do all sorts of things. So Dillard was thinking of that Alice's ability to just like change sizes by like eating a cookie or drinking some potion or whatever, that there was just something kind of horrifically wonderful about this, right? That Dillard sees Alice in Wonderland just getting smaller and smaller, like paring down to like nothing and just becoming like almost invisible, right? And she could slip through the littlest, tiniest crack. And this poet Dillard thought, this is really creepy and really wretched, right? That you are just going to be sliced and diced down to nothing. And so what we have to look at in this class is how do we remedy that, right? How do we get so that all of us are reflected in our society, and how all of us are represented and we don't feel invisible, right? So how do we do that? I'm saying that we question the designated default, right? And our jobs as teachers in this class is to help you do that. It's to help you discern, right? To recognize aspects of what makes up a really great, diverse children's book, and to really look at the numbers in our society, in our United States of America, and realize the diversity and the wonderfulness of that diversity of our population in the U.S., and to really understand the impact and the power of not being represented or reflected in our society, and the way that children's books can really help, really help do this. Totally fabulous concept. Because again, back to my favoriteest quote in the world, some things one can see for oneself, other things depend on the telling of the tale. And tales and stories are really big, and they're really important. And we're going to look at all sorts of exciting things, and I'm so happy about it, right? I am. Because here's the dealio. That children's books, literature functions as a major socializing agent, meaning that it's a guideline. It's a way to tell you how you're supposed to be in your world. It's a way to tell you what you're supposed to respect and appreciate and value, right? It's really big stuff. And if we present proper books, if we embrace our diverse society, and we show respect and empathy and excitement for everybody that's in our society, wowsy. That's why I love children's books. That's why I love them so very much. This is one of my most favorite books in the world, The Blue-Nosed Witch. And I never figured out why I loved it so much growing up, but I kind of figured out after doing a lot of work and looking at the impact of children's literature. Because when I grew up, which was a really long time ago, there weren't very many female protagonists in books. There weren't any girls that were the main characters. This was one of them. This really cool girl that was a witch. And so she had to disguise that she was a witch, so she had a blue nose. That's why you knew she was a witch. So she would powder that up before she went to school, and it just was such an exciting book. So many cool things happened. There was donuts, and there was trick-or-treating. There was all sorts of stuff. Loved it. And I loved it because it was a reflection of me in some ways, because I was a girl And so was this blue-nosed witch. I think her name was Blanche. She was a girl. And there weren't very many girls around when I was growing up in books and with cool roles, with cool adventures, right? That you all have seen more of that, but it wasn't happening when I was growing up, and it's not happening enough as far as I'm concerned right now. So the deal is that you still took books when I was growing up and you did something with them. A favorite chapter book, My Side of the Mountain. It was about a guy. It was about a boy, right? It was about a boy. And he did all this really cool stuff. He got to go live on some acreage of his grandfather's like wild country, right? And he had a falcon that he found and trained. He lived inside of a big tree, a hollow tree. Exciting. And I still could relate to it because it was something I wanted to do. I didn't want to be at home. I didn't like my home life. I wanted to run away and do something so cool like this boy did. Imagine if this had been a story about a girl. And for me, or if, for me, it was okay because I'm white, but like, what if it reflected your skin color? Or, I mean, how much more would you connect, right? So when you think about books or stories that you loved as children, why did you love them? How did they resonate for you? What was so robust about them? And that's what we talk about in here. There's some really cool books out there now, better than when I was growing up, that talk about you, that reflect you in our culture, in our society, that are specifically you. And that's what we need to talk about in this class. And we're going to talk about it. And I'm excited about it always. I'm excited about what children's books can do for us, how they can reflect our society, how they can help you learn about all sorts of people around the world. Oh my gosh, that's all I can talk about in terms about it. It's pretty cool. And I'm happy you're here. So 121 class the content is about multicultural children's literature. One of the requirements is an intensive writing class. Mandated, you got to write those 5,000 words, right? So what does this mean? It means we're going to be doing lots of writing in here. It also means that we're going to be talking about a lot of sensitive subjects, right? We're going to be talking about things that might kind of tick you off or intrigue you or all sorts of things. So there's some sensitivity that needs to be addressed, right? We need to be careful about some of these topics, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that because the objectives of this class are pretty spot on. There's a lot going on in here, right? A lot going on. You just thought it was going to be a Fun with Dick and Jane. That book was around when I was growing up. But we're going to dig in deeper than that. Because the really important thing is this message right here, right? It's the message. When children cannot find themselves reflected in the books they read, or when the images they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn a powerful lesson about how they are devalued in the society of which they are supposedly a part of, right? We're going to be talking about that a lot. So you're going to hear me say over and over again the value and importance of diverse children's literature, and which helps us change this world to be a better place. Had to say it again. Just had to. That's all she wrote. Thanks for coming. And I hope you'll come back and we have lots to talk about. I love the subject, as you can tell. Okay.